Okay, this is part two of me narrating a video that I made a couple days ago that it was kind of hard to follow if you don't know any of the backstory, so I needed to narrate some of this.
Like out of
Here it
nowhere.
goes. Part two.
And, you'll almost run into them, or, if you're just going slow and being careful like you normally do.
So this is just kind of how it is a lot of times when you go to the store, yeah, police run calls, fire run calls. But the amount of times that you show up to the store and there's some kind of rotator lights going that may either start right when you get there or start right when you leave is highly, highly, highly improbable to impossible, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people are that are experiencing this will agree with me. So I asked what was going on in this store when I went in there, and the guy says, "Oh, this girl just overdosed out in the parking lot." And there was a girl sitting in the rescue truck, I think it was, uh, just sitting up. I don't know. Didn't seem right.
This is the Big Red Radio, 98 KUPD Tempe Phoenix.
More of the red cars, so there's two red cars right in front of me. And then nobody seems to notice that there's a fire truck just jamming towards us. We need to pull over. He's just stepping on it. I mean, they were coming fast. So I got over it. I was like, what's going on here? And then we turn. I've seen that rescue truck more than any vehicle in my life. And here's the ironic coincidental, I don't know. That is a beautiful rescue truck. I would love to drive that truck. This is what I used to do. I was an engineer. I drove a crash fire rescue fire truck. I drove a water tender. Drove the engine. I drove the rescue truck. I was never the captain on the rescue truck, but I drove it when I checked the barriers out in the airport. I drove all these vehicles. I love that truck, man. That is beautiful. I would ride on that any day. And I've talked about that, and it seems like this is the one that shows up the most in front of me, just hitting lights and sirens. They're always going code 3. It's like no matter where I'm at, this is the busiest rescue truck in the United States, or they have some kind of GPS and they like to run code 3 right when I get to an intersection. Which is too bad because, I mean, this truck right here was meant for heroes trying to help people. There's a lot of equipment on this truck. This is where they keep the jaws of life, the spreaders, the airbags for building collapse. This is what they use to cut people out of cars, save their lives. They don't need to be using this to run around and antagonize people that they don't know anything about that person. They're just following their GPS, following orders, antagonizing people, ruining the name of somebody that should be driving that truck.
Imagine that timing, right?
So I pull over, parking lot full of white vehicles, all white and red vehicles. And what do you know? It's the busiest rescue truck in the United States. So a busy station would run like 40 cars a day. I know, like the west side of Fresno, the guys that I know that I worked with at the airport, some of them worked over in like west side of Fresno. They worked all over. They worked different stations. But they would talk about getting 40, 50, sometimes 60 calls a day. That's what these guys would be having to get to be out that much, to be firing up code 3 when I'm out every single time. I mean, they would have to be just driving around town, running lights and sirens. I'd like to see their record on this rescue truck of how many calls a day they run. I would really like to see that. I'm sure they work mutual aid because, okay, so Interstate 10 is just directly behind my truck where you're looking, about a mile, mile and a half. And I'm sure there's a lot of accidents on that freeway. So they probably work with the DMV, what do they call it here, the MVD, Motor Vehicle Department. They probably work mutual aid with them and possibly Goodyear and Litchfield, and then they meet on the freeway, and then they work the auto extrications and stuff like that. So they could be busy because of those calls, but I'd really like to see those calls. I'd like to see what they run a day, um, which incidents they're responding to, and do a little math on that because my best guess is that it wouldn't add up. Red car, guy wearing red shirt, red shoes. Rescue truck. Red car, yellow light. Every time I get to the intersection, it seems like the light just happens to turn yellow. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount. I've said before that I believe that these stoplights are controlled and they could easily be controlled, and the people in the city wouldn't even know it. They could be remotely controlled. I'm sure there's some kind of wireless connection um, that they can hook up to some kind of algorithm that tracks your GPS, and when you get to the intersection, it turns the light yellow, and then you're continuously aggravated. It would not be hard to figure that out, how to do that. I mean, apparently we got to Mars. We can figure out how to make an algorithm to change the light when somebody goes through it if they're a targeted individual.
It is amazing how many calls happen. You go right by me when I'm on the road. Wow.
This is just part of the brighting. This is from my front doorstep. I noticed my living room is lighting up, so I went out to see what was going on. This guy's out front with this bar light, LED bar light on his truck, parked down the street, just lighting us up. This is also on my street. Whoa, my dog's trying to get in. He wants to see this video. Look at this guy, just bright lighting me. I don't have my brights on. I stopped and I said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "You got your brights on." I said, "Look right here, I don't." I said, "Yeah, you did." I didn't have But I'm gonna let my dog in. Now this right here. Come on, buddy. Come on. I'm making a video. Go over here. Go over here. Okay, so I live near the Goodyear Airport, and there is air traffic around here, and I don't mind air traffic. I love air traffic, as a matter of fact. I love aviation. I was in the Air Force for 15 years. I worked around airplanes. I grew up near Edwards Air Force Base, where my mom was the head of personnel for the Federal Aviation Administration. My dad was a crash fire rescue firefighter at Plant 42 near Edwards Air Force Base. Buddy, come on, stop. I